Hello, everybody, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for May 9th, 2025. It's Season 4, Episode 129. I'm Mayor Watt. I run ohmtown.com. The Sentient AI is not available today, but that doesn't mean we can't go on with the show. We do 10 articles every single day. Actually, we do 15 combined over 3 shows on Saturday and 3 shows on Sunday. Each one of those shows is a unique show. So we have a total of 7 unique podcasts that you can download, hundreds of episodes, thousands overall, as ohmTown has been running Non Sequitur News for now Season 4, Episode 129. Been around for a while, so go back and watch all of them. Be sure to follow us on YouTube and on Twitch. Download all of the podcasts. Visit us on the Patreon. There's a Discord. All kinds of stuff. Anyway, everything is powered by ohmTown. All right, so we're going to talk about You Always Wrinkle the Same Way, Burger King false advertising, Ozempic non-drinkers, Andor is the best of Star Wars, Overwatch 2 devs have unionized, one iPhone, fold the rumors, Thunderbolts are what now? The Skyraider 2 light attack plane, the Corolla gets angry, and because money breaks social constraints, a story. Normally, I would say these before our intro, but I am kind of rushed today. I have mayoral duties that I've got to go and attend to. So unfortunately, I won't be able to do a really long show, but let's get into it anyway. This first article is over in the Mobile channel. We source all kinds of stuff from, it's just this really broad gamut of articles and topics and stuff like that. Primarily under 3 main categories of science, technology, and society. And then it gets broken out into these 6 main categories and then furthermore into 50 channels, all of which I use to manage my information overload. Anyway, enough of that. If you want all of today's show notes, they actually persist until the next episode in Omatron over on Twitch and in the show description over on YouTube and in the show notes wherever you catch pod. So !NSN and Omatron will spit them out into the channel for the last episode that we've done, which is today's. Anyway, yeah, your wrinkles on your hands are always the same way. If you're in the water for too long, it says, do your wrinkles always form in the same pattern every time you're in the water for too long? Well, according to new research from Binghamton University, State University of New York, the answer is yes. So yeah, your fingers always wrinkle the same way. Binghamton University put this article together. It's posted over at phys.org. A couple of years ago, Binghamton University Associate Professor Guy German published research about why human skin wrinkles when you stay in water too long. Received wisdom. It says, received wisdom held that the water swelled your skin and made your fingers wrinkly, but little to no research had been done to prove that. Well, okay, that's interesting. The music stopped, but for no reason. Let's keep going. So no research had been done. So what German and his team at the Biological Soft Matter Mechanics Laboratory found is that blood vessels beneath the skin actually contract after prolonged immersion, and that's where wrinkles come from. He wrote about the research in The Conversation, or for The Conversation in 2023 as part of the Curious Kids feature. One of the follow-up questions stumped him, though. So a student asked, yeah, but do the wrinkles always form in the same way? And I thought, this is a quote, by the way, from the person. And I thought, I haven't the foggiest clue, said German, a faculty member at the Thomas J. Watson College of Engineering and Applied Science Department of Biomedical Engineering. So it led to this research to find out. And so, yeah, apparently you do. In the paper recently published in the Journal of the Mechanical Behavior of Biomedical Materials, German and Rachel Layton 23 and 24 show that Yes, the topography patterns remain constant after multiple immersions. Blood vessels don't change their position much. They move around a bit, but in relation to other blood vessels, they're pretty static. That means that the wrinkle should form in the same manner, and we proved that they do. So yeah, if they immersed a finger in water for 30 minutes, taking photos and then repeating the immersion under the same conditions at least 24 hours later, by comparing the images, German and Leighton found that the same patterns raised loops and ridges after both immersions, apparently the same way. Interesting, right? Yeah, that's why I kind of call the show that we stream. I read some interesting news today. Oh boy. So this next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Hold the lies. Hold the fries. Get it? Anyway, judge says that a Burger King must face false advertising lawsuit over the size of its Whopper. I love these. The last time I brought one of these up, I actually mentioned that I had a conversation with a sandwich shop owner, and they said, yeah, we could make our sandwiches the same way that the ad looks. And I said, well, then why don't you? And they said, because it's not cost effective to spend that much time making it look pretty. Well, my argument with the person was that it isn't just that they don't look pretty, it's that they don't even match up in any way, shape, or form. So a judge this week denied Burger King's request to dismiss a false advertising lawsuit, and the lawsuit claims that Burger King's Whopper ads mislead consumers about its size and ingredients. The size and even the ingredients, but the size in particular, I don't know. It doesn't. There's a whole lot to it. I think that what we actually end up getting is kind of a pale comparison to what's in the ads. But the case is the latest false advertising lawsuit against fast food chains. The article is over at businessinsider.com. Kenneth Nehmeyer put the article together, and they have pictures from this lawsuit. It's a class action lawsuit against Burger King that show an actual Whopper next to an ad for a Whopper. And yeah, that's it right there. I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of it. So I get it. It has the same ingredients, but look how amazing every element of this is, right? Thick, bright red, juicy tomatoes, thick, crisp onion, really like bold lettuce at the top, thick, crisp pickles, and the bun is smaller than the patty. But what you end up getting looks like it's been run over by an M1 Abrams battle tank, for crying out loud. This kind of anemic bun, pale in comparison to the one that's in the advertisement. Everything is anemic. The patty looks like it was run through warm water. It's smaller than the bun. The tomatoes are kind of a pale red, pink color, more than bright red. And the lettuce is barely peeking out from under. And I think the biggest correlation between ad and actual Whopper is maybe the pickles. So the best, I guess, of the reality there is that eat the pickles, because they're the ones that match up. So a federal judge in Florida denied Burger King's request to dismiss, and the lawsuit represents 19 people from 13 different states who say that they purchased Burger King's signature Whopper based on false and misleading advertising concerning the size and the amount of the ingredients. I don't know where these people have been for the last 20 years, but I guess not buying Burger King, because if all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's a shocker. No, come on. Everybody knows that what you get in the ad is nothing, but we shouldn't allow that, right? Truth in advertising. But everything is marketing, and then you have to claw back the reality of what you actually consume. Federal judge denied it. Burger King filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit in May 2022. 2 months after it was first filed, it argued that since every burger is handmade at the restaurant, the look of each sandwich necessarily will differ. But again, it looks like this thing suffered from copy degradation and is at the last milliliter of ink in the cartridge. In some states, the law requires that a customer have a special relationship with a company to sue it for misrepresentation in ads. The law defines a special relationship as requiring a position of confidence or trust, like with a lawyer or engineer. So you cannot sue anybody then unless they're a lawyer or an engineer or some type of professional relationship where it's a specialized field, for misrepresentation. Apparently, food service business would not typically fall into this category, but Florida law does not have this requirement, Altman wrote. Altman said Burger King's lawyers were resisting the common sense reading of Florida law by suggesting that Burger King could not be liable based on the absence of a special relationship. The Russo firm, a class action firm representing the plaintiffs, wrote in a blog post that Altman's ruling was significant. The Whopper lawsuit is the latest example of false advertising claims targeting fast food chains. In 2023, for example, a federal judge in Brooklyn dismissed a similar false advertising lawsuit against Wendy's and McDonald's that accused the restaurants of marketing their burgers as larger than reality. And this is regulatory capture, If they were trying to protect the consumers, then yeah, because the marketing just doesn't live up to the reality of what you're getting every time. It just looks like somebody put it in a paper bag and then beat the crap out of it and then threw it into a paper box and said, here you go. And now you're paying $30 to $40 for 2 to 3 people at a fast food joint, for crying out loud. It's not going to get any easier because 10% tariffs are here to stay, folks. So Bill Marler, an attorney specializing in food safety cases, previously told Business Insider that these kind of class action lawsuits are often legally unproductive and walk the thin line between consumer advocacy and just being annoying. But there's more in this article, a little bit more. But really, does this make any sense to anybody that this is the ad? So we know, anybody who is in business and anybody who's looked at an ad knows that this is the best foot forward in its marketing. It's glitz, it's glam, it's basically a scam, right? But we buy into it because we're like, okay, we know that it's an ad. That can't be the reality, but that isn't really how it should be. But then when you talk to somebody in advertising, if they were to take a picture of this and throw it up on a billboard, nobody would show up to buy a Whopper. Not unless the price was dramatically lower, because the value isn't there. If you look at this and then you look at this looks like you're out on your patio or your deck, your backyard, having a barbecue, and people are bringing in $30 burgers. This looks like I said, it's the last milliliter of ink in the cartridge. And you're like, no, printer, just print. Just get it out there so that I can file my paperwork. It's just barely resolving on the paper. Anyway, let's keep on going. The next article is over in Wanted. People on Ozempic are drinking way less. Now, we've talked about this here in ohmTown a few times. Scientists are continuing to find out evidence that GLP-1 medications can temper cravings for alcohol and other drugs. So this article by Ed Cara over at Gizmodo.com is just another article in the series, not at Gizmodo, but that we cover here, because in ohmTown, we have a lot of different articles, right? And they're all funneled into a bunch of different things. And one of them is Distillerist, and all of these here are focused segments. So of the bean, of the brew, grape. So we have wine and distilled spirits and all kinds of coffee and tea and stuff like that articles that get aggregated into these categories. And so it's always interesting to see what a GLP-1 analysis of what's going on kind of shows. And it shows that people continue to just kind of give up on drinking. Semaglutide, the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy, and similar GLP-1 drugs are far more effective at helping people lose weight than diet and exercise alone. But some scientists have also begun to notice that the drugs may help reduce people's cravings for things besides food, including potentially harmful drugs like opioids, cocaine, alcohol. To put all of these together, I think it's kind of not really. It's disingenuous. I mean, I won't go into it, but alcohol seems to be the accepted drug for everybody to abuse to the point of intoxication. And we go, "Oh, okay, I just had a little bit too much," but alcohol is a poison. And so that's what's intoxicating you, that we metabolize it and we end up getting drunk. But early studies have started to support these anecdotal observations, but these studies have been going on since GLP-1 drugs have hit the market, and it has been 2 years. Well, we've been doing the show for 4 years now. This is the beginning of the second quarter of the fourth year, and we've talked about it often enough that this is not anecdotal observation. Studies have shown that people have given up on drinking because they're taking GLP-1 and other drugs, so like Zepbound and Wegovy and Ozempic and others, all basically demotivate the taker of these medications. The study participants were real-life patients prescribed with either semaglutide or liraglutide, an older GLP-1 drug, and that gets phased out for the newer ones because they show better efficacy and lower incidences of kind of knock-on effects, because there's some that have the lab animals, lab research, it shows like an uptick in cancer possibilities, thyroid cancer in particular. So overall, 188 people returned for at least one follow-up visit, and the people who drank alcohol reported drinking less on average after starting a GLP-1 drug. This reduction was especially apparent in those who drank the most to begin with. High consumers, defined as drinking over 11 drinks a week. Man, so, well, I mean, I guess it depends on what they call a drink. Any alcohol at all. So if you have 2 beers a night, 5 days a week, yeah, you're going to be in the high consumer category. Anyway, they reported a 68% reduction in their alcohol use from around 23 drinks a week. What? Okay, on average to 8 drinks weekly. So that is an amazing reduction from 23 to 8 on average. Who in there in that pool of 188 people is throwing that number around? That's the from around 23 drinks a week. Yeesh. So that level of reduction is comparable to the effectiveness of existing treatments for alcohol use disorder, the study researchers note. That could destroy the entire economy around alcohol if everybody takes these. But a lot of these GLP-1 medications are also showing marked impact on the possibility for those predisposed to cancers, including breast cancer. This is actually mitigating that. It's helping to stop the cancers from spreading or taking hold, based on some research that has been published. But they don't tie it all together. It's really early in the use of GLP-1 for that kind of stuff. We're just now getting over the hump of applying it to something other than like insulin, diabetes. Okay, but let's keep on going. The next article is over in the Warcrafters channel. Andor's latest episodes are the best yet, and we aren't ready for it to end. I certainly am not. Each little tranche of 3 that gets dropped has been spectacular in the last one, although it was a little bit slower than episode 6. I think it was spectacular. Yeah, I think it was episode 6. So this week brought us 3 more episodes of Andor and one step closer to next week's series finale. This trio was probably the most impressive and devastating yet, bringing the events on Gorman to an incendiary head and bringing some character arcs to a sudden and permanent end. Nobody, I don't know anybody that saw this coming. It says the best Star Wars show continues as we discuss what happens in episodes 7, 8, and 9. Is it really 7, 8, and 9? Huh. I don't remember it being so. Maybe I'm lost in the matrix here. There's a glitch. But I know that I've watched everything up until next week. So, and I'm going to try not to, hold on, I need to move something and I will put this up here. Spoiler. So I'm going to try not to spoil anything, but this article is over at Kotaku and it's by Zach Wise and Ethan Gatch, or I don't know how they pronounce their last name. It's Gach, and Carolyn Pettit, or Petite. I'm not sure how they pronounce their last name either. But I'm giving it my Harvard try, and since I never went to Harvard, you're just getting this. Anyway, if you missed the conversation about last week's episodes, you can find it via a link. So you can go back over to Kotaku.com and read more about their past talks. But it says here, so I think these last 3 episodes are their favorite Andor episodes of season 2 so far, and maybe the entire series. And for what happens on Gorman, the stuff with Mothma, and the heartbreaking ending scene in episode 9, it was all so good. And Carolyn Pettit says it was. In the past, they've taken notes as they watched, just so that they had a few things to refer back to when they have the chats. And Ethan Gatch says that they've obviously need to start with the weird force healing stuff. I'm sure Zach can explain. So this is kind of a translation of a conversation into this little post here on Kotaku. But yeah, in this episode, they basically touch base on force healing, on a force wielder in general, things kind of reference things that gets mentioned in the canon of Star Wars, where people are kind of a nexus for events that take place, and Andor is about that. I just think that this is really amazing, and this series ties into Rogue One because the KX unit is acquired here in Rogue One. So again, I'm trying not to spoil anything, but it becomes obvious when you see it. How it got into possession is kind of amazing. And I was just kind of watching this going, all of this gaslighting and stuff like that, it's almost, a little bit of truth goes a long way. So anyway, it was mind-boggling, the end of episode 9, I guess it is. I can't believe it's episode 9 already, but I know that we're right around the corner from the end of the series, or the end of the season, not the series. I am hoping that this does not actually end here. There's a tremendous amount of world building still, and I can't wait for more. The only thing that rivals this in terms of my desire for it to continue is the Dune series. I want Dune to continue. I want to visit all of the planets that are involved in Dune. I want to visit all of the planets, everything that's involved with Star Wars. Finally, Star Wars could be like an ongoing concern, and I need it to fill the gap from Star Trek. And I need Dune to play out, and I need Foundation to come back online, and there's so many others. I need more sci-fi fantasy because, I just love that topic. Anyway, let's keep on going. I don't want to run too late. I do have mayoral duties that I need to attend to, so let's keep going. The next article is over in Warcrafters. What I want to protect most here is the people. Overwatch 2 devs have unionized. The Overwatch 2 team at Blizzard has formed a union of nearly 200 developers, featuring every ground-level artist, engineer, designer who works on the game. The Overwatch Game Makers Guild joined the ranks of the Communication Workers of America with the goal of giving Overwatch 2 developers more protection against sudden layoffs, unfair wages, and other issues that have rocked the industry as of late. Eric Law over at GameRant.com put the article together. And it says the union formation was spurred by previous Blizzard controversies and major Microsoft layoffs. And the problem here is that it's not unheard of to basically push real hard to get a game made, and then the people are let go. And I'm not sure of the dynamic anymore. It's been a long time since I was involved in anything close to this, but not everybody becomes a stakeholder or stockholder in the company. They get paid a wage, and then they're either let go with little to no warning, and maybe there's some kind of contract that was signed that is specific to that particular software engineer or designer. But not everybody has that bargaining power. So you can work really hard, make a game that makes billions, but you're just let go, summarily dismissed because of some perceived runway imbalance between income and the expenditures. Unions are groups of affiliated workers who band together to fight for better wages, treatment, and rights against employers. Though they have a storied history across the globe, they have only started forming in the video game industry in the last few years, correct, with the United Video Game Workers announced at the GDC as one more recent and significant example. So Team 4 forms Overwatch Game Makers Guild Union. The road to unionization began with the controversy surrounding several key Blizzard executives back in 2021, harassment and abuse by lead developers like Jesse McCree. They're named in this article, whose name Overwatch 2 hero Cassidy shared until he was renamed after the lawsuits, gave them not only an objective, but ammunition in the form of precedents to protect themselves with. Pay disparities, return to office mandates, hostile adjustments to Blizzard profit sharing over the years only added more fuel to the fire. And it's the reason why the business even exists is because of these people doing the hard work. Yeah, there's some business mechanics behind there, but I need to remove that spoiler. Sorry, I got distracted. I was really excited to talk about this. That said, according to Overwatch 2 test and analyst Simon Hedrick, the major layoffs from Microsoft back in 2024 were the turning point. Up to that moment, they'd been really happy in what they were doing, he admitted, but when nearly 2,000 Blizzard developers were laid off overnight in the wake of the Microsoft buyout, they realized that they had to do something. And this is normally what goes on. You know, they didn't come for me because I wasn't ... And that's going around everywhere. So why shouldn't unions form? I mean, you give and you're paid, but that's still, there's an expectation, I guess. And so we've built a culture where it's so abusive. You work for a company and they burn you to the ground and then live off of your soul that you spend working there for 100-hour work weeks sometimes. You know, I've been there. So the person says, what I want to protect most here is the people, but they didn't do anything until now, but now they are. So you have to kind of go, okay, I get it. People were gone out of nowhere and there was nothing that we could do about it. There's still nothing you can really do about it. If the company wants you gone, they can still fire you. It might be a financial burden, but they still have everything that you made and I'll just let you go. It says we're not just a number on an Excel sheet. I want to make games, but I can't do it without a sense of security. Well, then you need to start up your own business because the world is literally at will employment. The only thing that differs is the contract negotiated, and not everybody is going to agree with that contract. Some think that they're better than the contract that gets negotiated. Unfortunately, that is the way of the world. I don't really agree with it. I think that when there is systemic abuse, that union should form. But a business owner is going, I don't care. You don't like it here, leave. And you can't force a company to employ you. It can become a financial burden to remedy the issue, but just like the employee can't, or the employer can't force somebody to work, you can't force an employer to employ you. So this new Overwatch 2 union now needs to negotiate its first contract, a process Microsoft has notoriously dragged its feet on in the past. but has otherwise hit a major milestone in its declaration. Quote, our industry is at such a turning point, Boyd said, that, again, quote, I really think that the announcement of our union on Overwatch, I know that will light some fires. Yeah, I don't know. I think that all this is going to do is really create friction, and people aren't going to be able to get employed because the contract is going to, first off, once it's approved, it needs to be ratified. Once they negotiate, it has to be ratified by the body of the union. And then when it goes into effect, the company basically can go, okay, we're done. We're not going to do anything else with Overwatch 2 or Overwatch. It's not necessarily in their best interest, but they can strike up another team and do something else. And maybe the contract, the union construct that they have to agree to eventually says you can't do that, but there's always ways around it, and they'll find it. That said, let's keep on going. The next article is over in Smack Talk. This is always about Apple and its competitors, but primarily from the perspective of Apple. So iPhone Fold, all the rumors about Apple's first foldable and when it might launch. And this is a rumor thing. I'm not really into rumors, but I figured that I would mention it because I find it interesting that people are still talking about Apple releasing a foldable. I just don't see a foldable ever coming out of Apple. Marko Zivkovic put the article together. The supply chain leaks about Apple's foldable iPhone have been increasing in frequency, and it may be only a year away, they say. Here's what the rumor mill believes is in the works. While 2025 could see the release of an ultra-thin iPhone 17 Air or an iPhone 17 Slim, whatever they want to call it. It's maybe an iPhone 17 minus instead of a plus. I don't know. The year after may prove to be more interesting if anybody can afford these damn devices at that point. The year after may prove more interesting because multiple sources and reports over the years have said that Apple was working on products with foldable displays, the first of which is expected to be an entirely new iPhone model. Yeah, I don't know about that. But it's renders that everybody is seeing. If there is a prototype, it's not even close to being dropped. Similarly, so they say in 2020 there was a rumor, in 2021 there was a rumor. Reports from February and March of 2024 suggested that Apple had initially planned a 2026 release. Project was delayed until 2027. Rumors from 2024 echoed the 27 launch. I don't see it absolutely happening. I don't see it happening, in my opinion, mainly because of that right there. Apple doesn't want to deal with the crease. They've had to deal with other things like hinky keyboards and discoloration on the glass and bendaphone or bendgate, that kind of thing. Bend an iPhone popping up, becoming a meme, and other related issues like you're holding it wrong. Can you imagine Apple releasing something where there could be a possible crease formed within who knows how long? It depends on the use case, right? How often you're opening and closing it. I think that there's a better chance of Apple releasing a rolling screen than a folding screen. If you figure out what the arc is so that you can actually roll the screen into a cylinder, you got a better chance of that working than pinching it, in half and having it work reliably again and again. Yeah, I just don't see it. The iPhone Fold is expected to have two screens with a smaller outer display for general use and a folding internal one that's much larger. It appears as though the rumor mill has agreed on some of the essential specifications for these components. Opening it up, it'll be a 12-inch screen, but it's basically comprising two 6.1-inch full iPhones folded together. And it says the mathematics of that supposed measurement is somewhat wrong, as it would realistically be a screen size in the ballpark of 7.5 inches, which is similar to the 8.3-inch iPad mini. So I would say that it's closer to an iPad mini in overall stature. But this article continues. They talk about durability as a major concern, but that was the first thing that drew my attention to this whole article and why I selected it. I just don't see it forming. It says, while there are numerous possible ways Apple could approach a folding iPhone, the company would always need to make sure that the screen can withstand repeated folding over prolonged periods. Yet they will not want to mess with this. Not because prolonged periods, but if this ever forms a crease, the quality control, the perceived value of the screen would plummet from that point on. The first time somebody says my screen has a permanent crease down there, you know, the screen has a discoloration, people lose their mind. And rightfully so. If you pay $1,300 and this, I can imagine is going to be closer to $2,000. You fold this thing up and it has anything resembling a distortion in the graphics, any artifact at all. Yeah, I would lose my mind. You know, a dead or a hot pixel right now, you know, I found one recently on one of my displays and I'm going, my eyes go straight to it. I know exactly where it is on that screen. It drives me nuts. But so anyway, there's a lot of articles here that are linked in this kind of rumor page, but you can go and check it all out. You can check out more of it. Let's keep going. This, because it is a cacophony, or I say a holistic sampling of articles from across ohmTown. The last one on this list really rises to the level of my discussions when it comes to science, technology, and society. So this last one is pretty spectacular. This one, though, is in the Continuity Report, which is one of our weekend shows. I can't believe Thunderbolts, and then there's an asterisk, was so good it almost made the author of this forget it didn't answer one major MCU mystery. So how good is Thunderbolts? They said that they almost forgot that the film didn't answer one big Marvel mystery. In the eyes of many, myself included, not me, but the author of this article says that Thunderbolts, ! Is one of the best ranked MCU movies in a long time. And I'm going to spoil this and I'm going to overshare because I want everybody to be abundantly aware. If you're listening to this, I'm going to spoil something. But I'm warning you now. So in a couple of minutes, I'm going to spoil something. Not everybody knows apparently, but I'm going to talk about it. Okay, let's keep going. So it says, the author says, although they have liked a great deal of Marvel Studios properties since 2019 Avengers Endgame, the story of Thunderbolts! Resonated with me, and it is proving to do the same with audiences across the world. Louis Glazebrook put the article together over at ScreenRant.com, and the reviews for Thunderbolts! Saw the film receive an 88% critical approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, the highest since 2021's Spider-Man No Way Home. This was combined with a 94% audience approval rating, typifying just how enjoyable Thunderbolts! Truly was. And again, I'm going to spoil this. I'm warning everybody. If you don't watch the mid-end credits and the post-credits, you'll miss something. Okay. All right. I'm going to remove that just for a little bit. This enjoyment only made the anticipation grow for upcoming Marvel movies, the author says, and was swept up into the hype too. So Thunderbolts! Answers a huge number of questions about a range of MCU characters. I haven't seen Thunderbolts yet. I'm waiting for it so that I can see it in the mayoral mansion instead of going out and having to get nature and touch grass and all of that. Have nature on me. I don't. Anyway, so they say, for example, Thunderbolts! Answered many mysteries about the main team members of the film. Thunderbolts' cast of characters took front and center, with the film exploring what had become of John Walker and his family life since the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. providing answers about Bucky's political career, ending Taskmaster's story, and delving into the loneliness of Yelena and Red Guardian since Black Widow. Black Widow, I never watched either because just not really into the character. Guess I should be because it's tied together, but it's the exclamation point that answered mysteries about characters not even in the movie from Sam Wilson. Building, and let's just say it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to spoil it for everybody. So Thunderbolt's exclamation point means that it's the replacement for the Avengers. It is the new Avengers. Okay, and I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Thunderbolts leaves one long-term mystery unanswered, apparently. And it says, shrouded in darkness, even though it's somewhat relevant to the film story, the character this mystery links to is Ghost, who many would agree was perhaps the least developed of the main team members. Ghost was confirmed to have become a hardened assassin in the time between Ant-Man and the Wasp and Thunderbolts. That said, little else about her story was revealed. Little else was revealed about her. And especially given that the film focused intently on the mental struggles of Yelena, John Walker, and Bob, for example. This is just seeing him reminds me of The Matrix. Just everything about it just says the Matrix, but okay. Anyway, that's it for this article. We're going to have to continue on, but I'm going to have to watch this, and I would love to come back and talk about it again. We'll probably end up talking about it over on the Continuity Report, which is a show about TV and TV shows and movies primarily. All right, this next article is over in Non Sequitur News. We got an up-close look at the Skyraider 2 light attack plane that maker L3 Harris, or Le Harris, I don't know how they pronounce it, says can land almost anywhere. But I'm going to hurry up and jump through this because Chris Panella over at Business Insider put this article together. And when I chose this, I was really curious about what it was. And since we don't read the articles prior to the show, we just selected off of the snippet to see if it's interesting enough to talk about it during the show. I chose this, and so seeing it, this thing is what looks like how do you put it, like a barnstorming kind of plane. It looks very small, agile, very light, but it's armed, like it has rockets and missiles. So, Air Tractor and L3 Harris, I think AT-802U Skywarden designed the OA-1K Skyraider 2 by AFSOC in reference to the A-1 Skyraiders of the Korean and Vietnam Wars, is an armed intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance close air support and strike aircraft that L3 Harris says can land almost anywhere. It looks very, very tiny, but with a big engine and the right wing shape, this thing could probably, all it needs is a headwind, and I wonder how short the runway can be. The Air Force has prioritized flexibility, specifically the ability to operate in austere environments and off of unconventional runways like roadways. Fixed airfields and bases are easy targets, especially in the Indo-Pacific, where U.S. forces have to contend with China's growing missile force. But an adversary can't target every piece of concrete in the region. So I wonder what they say. I'm really curious. At a price per hour flight, Rambeau said that it's less than $1,000 per hour, one of the cheapest cheaper cost estimates for Air Force's fleet. He added that L3 Harris was in conversation with potential international customers across the world as well. So the program was originally contracted for 75 aircraft in a $3 billion deal in 23 and 24, and the GAO issued reports urging the Pentagon to reconsider the number of aircraft needed, citing concerns. So, whoa, this thing is chock-a-block with instrumentation. So it has a pilot and a navigator. So I won't go through any more of this, but I find it interesting that we're producing something like this. Until this, I would never have even known that something was being produced of this stature. Pretty interesting. Let's keep going. The 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross gets a beefier, angrier design. It's just hangry. Toyota small crossover gets a big upgrade and still offers a choice of ICE or hybrid drivetrains. So there it is. It's over at jalopnik.com. Amber Da Silva put the article together. This looks like a render. I just don't like renders of cars. But Toyota done its best to give the little crossover a character all its own, or at least a character that makes it worth picking out from the crowd of close, compact crossover competitors. For 2026, Toyota is taking this character a step further by giving the Cross a grumpier, hard-edged face. This, I guess. I mean, it looks like a Mazda. The whole thing just looks like a Mazda. But maybe they're going to lower their price, or we'll see. So the ICE-only Corolla Crosses get a front end that's reminiscent of the prior generation Highlander, with a big mustache of a grille over the lower opening, so down here. The hybrid gets a color-matched grille up on top, but still has that little goatee kind of thing. Overall, both new front ends are a nice change from the prior car. I mean, it's a subtle change, but the Corolla Cross's facelift isn't particularly severe change, but a refinement that's nice to see, and some new creases, a bit of smoothing over, and the crossover ends up looking sharper than it ever did before, sharper than much of the pricier crossover lineup. So they don't talk about the price in this. It doesn't seem. Bummer. Anyway, let's keep going. Our last article is kind of the icing on the cake, the coup de grace, so to speak. It's over in the Rounders Gear channel over at ohmtown.com, but it's sourced from Casino. And it's Kentucky's $167.3 million Powerball winner arrested for kicking a cop in the face. Just 2 days after the $167.3 million jackpot made James Shannon, whatever his name is, the richest Powerball winner in Kentucky, he found himself languishing in a jail cell in Florida, allegedly for kicking a police officer in the face during a fight. At least he can afford a good lawyer now. Maybe he could before. Yeah, wow. Just crushing it. So police saw Farthing punch Rushing in the left side of the face with a closed fist. When they attempted to intervene, a deputy was kicked in the cheek. Police said Farthing resisted arrest and tried to flee before being detained. Girlfriend, a perfectly named Jacqueline, whatever. Oh, their last perfectly named Jacqueline, Fightmaster 42, was also arrested at the scene. The report noted she was yelling, screaming, and making incoherent statements, and was trying to fight other patrons in the bar. And to me, this just screams, because money breaks the social constraint rules. There's no downward pressure when you can basically flaunt the law and do whatever the hell you want to, because you got enough money, you can do whatever the hell you want to. That's kind of what I witnessed here. They don't go much more into this other than Farthing's being held in the Pinellas County Jail on a $10,000 bond. He appeared in court on May 1st and entered a plea of not guilty. He was ordered to have no contact with Rushing, according to court records, too. This all started April 29th at around 11:15 p.m. Deputies responded to reports of a fight at a bar at the Island Grand Hotel, part of the Tradewinds Resorts, where they found Farthing fighting with another person, Rushing. So, yeah. So they walk in to try and break it up and get kicked in the face. Really, they should have just left it alone, right? Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of Non Sequitur News for May 9th, 2025. I'm Mayor Watt, and I'm getting out of here. But before then, we're going to... Let's see. How can I make this a Powerball related? Oh, I'm going to kick myself in the face, and when I regain consciousness, we'll be at the front page of ohmtown.com. I always transition doing something anyway. And now that I'm conscious again, I'm just going to shut down the show, and we're going to kick off the daily replay of the last 2 weeks of show. And I've got to get out of here. I'm running really late now. So thanks for hanging out. See you tomorrow. Maybe not. It really depends. Mayoral duties are going to keep me really busy tomorrow. So I might be able to do stuff early. Might end up doing it really late. We'll have to see. It really depends on how much free time I actually get to do the show. So Summer of Streams right around the corner, and I'll be free to stream. I'm going to try and stream 8 hours a day starting June 1st. Yeah. Okay. See y'all later. Bye-bye.